It's time for this week's edition of In the Loop. Welcome in, everybody. I'm Annie Yu. Over the next 30 minutes, we'll get you caught up on all of this week's biggest headlines. Let's get you in the loop, and we are staying on top of breaking news. Many leaders, including Maryland's Governor Wes Moore, are condemning the ICE agent who killed 37-year-old Renee Good in Minneapolis. Meanwhile, the Trump administration is defending the federal officer, claiming it was self-defense, and have vowed to continue its immigration crackdown. The FBI is investigating. Jared Hill reports.
ICE out now!
In freezing rain, hundreds marched through Minneapolis criticizing the surge in ICE agents.
People are still waking up and kind of like responding to the horror of what happened yesterday.
The Twin Cities a powder keg as anger has boiled over in response to the shooting death of 37-year-old Renee Good at the hands of an ICE agent on Wednesday.
It feels very, very difficult that we will get a fair outcome.
Minnesota Governor Tim Walz raised concerns Thursday as the Minnesota Bureau of Criminal Apprehension says they were informed by the FBI that state prosecutors would no longer have access to the investigation, which started as a joint probe. Vice President J.D. Vance.
The unprecedented thing is the idea that a local official can actually prosecute a federal official with absolute immunity.
CBS News has confirmed the agent who shot Renee Good is Jonathan Ross. He's worked with ICE in Minnesota for nearly a decade. During an ICE operation last summer in nearby Bloomington, video shows Ross being dragged by a suspect during an attempted arrest.
33 stitches in his leg, so you think maybe he's a little bit sensitive about somebody ramming him with an automobile.
The Trump administration and President Trump have maintained the agent acted in self-defense.
I found it, to be honest, the department's official statement and the secretary's statements were really irresponsible.
John Sandwick, former acting director of ICE, raised concerns about maintaining public confidence. Despite the calls to leave, DHS says ICE agents will continue their operation in Minnesota. Jared Hill, CBS News.
Meanwhile, closer to home, Virginia Congressman Eugene Vindman is promising to fight a proposal to bring a mega ICE facility to Stafford. We first told you about the possible plans to convert multiple industrial warehouses into detention hubs about 2 weeks ago. In a statement, Vindman said, quote, "We have secure borders without being cruel, and the proposed facility in Stafford would be cruel to the core, counter to the desires of our neighbors in Stafford County. The proposed center would hold as many as 10,000 detainees." Moving to developing news now that we've been keeping a close eye on all week. The Senate is advancing a resolution to limit future U.S. military force in Venezuela. This after Nicolas Maduro, Venezuela's former president, was captured in an overnight raid. President Trump had threatened to launch a second wave of attacks on the South American country, but said on Thursday he was canceling the expected attacks because Venezuelan officials are working well with the U.S. President Trump also vowed to control Venezuela's oil indefinitely.
To me, this is all about going forward. If the president should determine, you know what, I need to put troops on the ground in Venezuela, I think that would require Congress to weigh in.
The Trump administration is also doubling down on its push to control Greenland, and it has not ruled out using military force, but says they'll try diplomacy, at least for now. And Secretary of State Marco Rubio is set to meet with Greenland's leaders next week. This week marks 5 years since the Capitol insurrection, and many January 6 defendants spent January 6 marching to the U.S. Capitol to honor the people who lost their lives in the deadly attack.
We're not here for anything else.
That same day, the White House published a new website recapping the events from January 6, 2021, and the website labeled those who stormed the U.S. Capitol as, quote, peaceful protesters who were provoked by law enforcement and former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi. The website also recast the rioters as victims and depicts President Trump as a hero for granting sweeping pardons for the 1,600 people charged in connection with the deadly attack. Former Vice President Mike Pence spoke on CNN The Source, calling this website distasteful.
I think it's very offensive that the White House used taxpayer dollars and a taxpayer website to blame Capitol Hill police for what happened on January 6th. I mean, I understand the revisionist history that the president has tried to promote, but I think the overwhelming majority of the American people know what they saw that day.
The events of January 6th will never be forgotten by those who lived through it. And right here on WUSA 9 Plus, you can watch our award-winning special. It's called Democracy Divided, and it takes you moment by moment through the day with firsthand accounts from congressional staffers and police, along with hours of body cam and rioter video. Well, for the first time, the White House publicly revealed plans for President Trump's controversial $400 million East Wing ballroom project. The president already demolished the East Wing without federal approval, and according to those new plans, President Trump also wants to add a second level to the West Wing colonnade in the future. White House reps also shared that they are making renovations to the White House visitors entrance along with Lafayette Park. Let's get to an update now on the Kennedy Center. Congress says it is sticking with the building's original name, despite President Trump's name being on the exterior sign. About 3 weeks ago, the Kennedy Center board voted to add Trump's name to the signage and website, but Congress says they have to sign off on any formal name change. Okay, this next story may be a relief to some. Take a look here. They're quick, they're bold, and lately they are everywhere in D.C. We're talking from sidewalks to trash cans and sometimes even inside homes. And some local residents say the rat population in D.C. is just out of control, and now leaders are taking new steps to stop the scurry. Our Alexis Wainwright explains one proposal aimed at addressing the problem.
When it comes to rats in D.C.
Oh, all the time. People should do something about it. Yeah. And it shouldn't be me. The renter.
Now, new legislation introduced by Councilmember Janice Lewis George is aimed at tackling the problem tail first.
It's going to take a community approach to doing this, but it also is going to take government being more effective.
She says D.C. now has the fastest growing rat population among 15 major cities, calling it a serious life, safety, and public health issue. That's where the Rat Amendment Act comes in.
It strengthens the district's ability to hold property owners accountable by allowing D.C. Health to actually recover costs when it has to step in.
For residents, that accountability matters.
I really do think it's necessary because some of the apartment complexes that deal with it aren't really doing anything about it.
Councilmember Lewis George says the idea for the bill came directly from people in Ward 4 after her office was flooded with calls.
Residents were complaining about large rat infestations.
She says part of the challenge has been navigating how different agencies respond.
When DPW, Department of Public Works, finds active rodent activity during trash violation enforcements, those cases actually will be automatically referred to DC Health for rat abatement. So you don't have to do two different requests.
The legislation would also require DC Health to create a public rodent abatement dashboard showing population estimates, treatment trends, and data by ward and ANC.
And this is to help make sure we are not doing duplicative efforts, but also that we are being effective in the efforts that we are doing.
I think it's a great idea, something that keeps everyone safer.
Residents say transparency and action are long overdue.
I think it's necessary. Even for me, I live on the line of PG and DC, and we got a big infestation as well.
There's no date yet on when the bill will be voted on, but 5 other council members have already signed as co-introducers.
Help is on the way. You're not alone.
Alexis Wainwright, WUSA 9.
Councilmember Lewis George says residents should continue reporting rat issues, and she's encouraging people to show up at future oversight meetings to push for funding in the upcoming budget. She says she'd even like to see the city appoint a rat czar, a government official solely focused on reducing the rat population. Well, it's a shakeup for Congress. Maryland Representative Steny Hoyer announcing on the House floor on Thursday that he will not be running for re-election. The 86-year-old served in the House for over 40 years now and was a champion to the American with Disabilities Act. And while speaking to Congress, Hoyer shared then Senator John F. Kennedy inspired him to change his major and pursue a career in politics. He also went on to say that he's worried about the future of our government and country.
I am deeply concerned that this House is not living up to the founders' goals. I fear that America is heading not toward greatness, but toward smallness, pettiness, divisiveness, lawlessness, and disdainfulness.
Hoyer ended his speech by thanking some of his colleagues and said his work is not finished yet. Meanwhile, a Richmond delegate already part of Virginia's General Assembly is returning, but this time as state senator. Democrat Mike Jones won the race to fill Lieutenant Governor-elect Ghazala Hashmi's seat on Tuesday. And according to election results from the AP, Jones defeated Republican candidate John Thomas by a large margin. And Jones's victory also triggered a down-ballot result in the House, where a separate special election was held for his former seat. Democrat Charlie Schmidt, a former ACLU attorney, defeated Republican challenger Richard Stonich Jr. Schmidt will fill the remainder of Jones's unexpired House term. And this comes as Virginia Governor-elect Abigail Spanberger preparing to be sworn in as the state's first female governor. Her inauguration is next Saturday at noon down in Richmond. This is a ticketed event based on a lottery system. To enter the lottery, we have shared that link on WUSA9.com. You can also watch it live right here on WUSA9 Plus. The CDC cut 6 vaccines off their recommended immunization schedule for kids. How you can keep your family safe next. A heads up for parents, the CDC made major changes to the vaccine schedule for kids, and it reduces the amount of vaccines recommended from 17 to 11, most notably removing RSV, COVID-19, and the flu for most kids. Our Randy Hildreth explains the reaction from healthcare officials and what you should know to keep your kids safe.
The criticism has been swift and sharp. The American Academy of Pediatrics released a statement saying the CDC's new vaccine decision is, quote, dangerous and unnecessary. The Infectious Diseases Society of America called it, quote, a reckless step. The CDC announced Monday it was overhauling the vaccine schedule and recommending fewer shots for children. The guidelines will still recommend vaccines to guard against about 11 diseases, including measles, mumps, and chickenpox. But other vaccines will be recommended for high-risk groups. The agency says immunizations for things like the flu or hepatitis A and B will be decided by parents and their child's doctor. The CDC says the new schedule follows vaccine guidelines from peer nations like Denmark, where fewer shots are recommended. Health Secretary Robert F. Kennedy Jr. in a statement said, quote, this decision protects children, respects families, and rebuilds trust in public health. But leaders with the American Academy of Pediatrics warned the U.S. shouldn't follow other countries because our vaccine recommendations protect against diseases with known impacts in America.
You can't just copy and paste public health, and that's what they seem to be doing here.
Dr. Sean O'Leary sits on the Infectious Diseases Committee with the American Academy of Pediatrics. He says their vaccine schedule is rooted in decades of research, and leaders say they will continue to publish their own recommendations.
No scientific reason to believe that Denmark's vaccine recommendations are safer. What we do know is that anytime a child goes without recommended immunizations, they're at risk for these diseases that we can prevent.
That was our Randy Hildreth reporting. Maryland's Department of Health says that they won't adapt this change, and health officials say insurance providers will continue to cover the cost of all vaccines. Plus, Virginia is expanding its breast cancer coverage. Under new state law, insurance companies are now required to fully cover additional breast cancer screenings. This includes diagnostic mammograms, ultrasounds, and MRIs. Now, before this, many women were stuck paying hundreds of dollars, even thousands of dollars for follow-up tests, and doctors say those costs often caused women to put off or even skip the screenings.
If they see something on the screening mammogram, they come in for extra tests. Insurers were not covering those extra tests, which can be an out-of-pocket expense from $200 to over $1,000. So that's a huge financial obstacle for women to actually come and get the imaging test that they need.
The law applies to most individual and group insurance plans in Virginia, including marketplace and state employee plans.
WUSA 9 Weather Impact is sponsored by Morgan & Morgan.
We've got a half and half weekend. Saturday is going to start off with a weather impact alert, and Lots of rain and showers. Sunday, though, we'll salvage some nice sunshine. It is going to be breezy and chilly, though. Temperatures making it into the upper 40s and low 50s, but with that wind, going to feel slightly cooler than that. So we have issued a weather impact alert for that rain on Saturday between about 6 a.m. and 6 p.m. That's the window where you'll see this rain. Not going to rain that entire time, but that's when you need to have your rain gear handy. If you have outdoor plans, move them inside, move them to Sunday, because it is going to be a pretty soggy Saturday, especially through the middle part of the day. So this is 6 o'clock in the morning. We start to track the onset of some of those showers well off to our south and west. By 9 o'clock, we've got that heavy, steady rain for pretty much everyone along and south of I-66. The closer you are to the Mason-Dixon line, the longer you'll stay drier, but by 10, 11 o'clock, you too will have this rain. This is right around 12 o'clock. Everyone dealing with this widespread soaking rain. And notice those temperatures. It is going to be chilly. It is just going to be a miserable day if you do have to be outside. Now by 3 o'clock, we start to clear out in our westernmost counties, far western Maryland, West Virginia, along the I-81 corridor, but still coming down pretty steady there along the Beltway and along 95. By 6 o'clock, though, we'll be left with a few light scattered showers. Still going to be overcast and damp. Not a nice Saturday evening by any means, but it will be dry. If you have a dinner reservation, you can certainly keep it. If you're looking to get a walk in on Saturday, you can do it later at night. Just know it's going to be cloudy and chilly with those temperatures still only in the 40s. Now, this will ultimately be a fairly beneficial rain. Most of the region picking up around a ½ an inch on either side of that, 3/4 of an inch possible in areas north and west of D.C., back toward Gaithersburg, Manassas, Leesburg, ½ an inch or so down into southern Maryland. If you're in far western Maryland and West Virginia, you actually wind up with the least amount of rain, likely just clocking in a couple tenths of an inch, maybe 1/4 of an inch of rain. But we will take every drop we can get. The updated drought monitor now shows the severe drought conditions expanded across much of our region. The only exception is southern Maryland down into the northern neck, where we still have a moderate drought. But pretty much everyone clocking in a pretty significant rainfall deficit at this point in January. Now, behind the rain does come some colder temperatures as we head into next week. We'll stay in the upper 40s and low 50s on Sunday, drop into the low 40s on Monday, and then we could climb above average there for Tuesday, Wednesday. Not too shabby for January, before colder temperatures do look to move in behind a cold front as we head through the end of next week and into the following weekend. So once we get past that weather impact alert on Saturday, lots of sunshine to enjoy in the 7-day forecast. We really don't have any storms on the horizon, just variable temperatures. And keep in mind, Sunday into Monday, it is going to feel even colder with that wind.
America is turning 250 years old this year. D.C. kicking off the celebration by hosting a free light show at the Washington Monument for 6 nights starting on New Year's Eve. Even fireworks there. You can see the monument lit up in our patriotic colors and images relating to our nation's history. And the night wrapped up with the fireworks show on the final night.
What did you think?
I liked when there was like the lightning crackle, because it looked really cool.
I really liked how unique it was and how the graphics went all the way throughout the whole monument.
This is the first of many events coming to the district to celebrate America's 250th birthday, and our morning team got the chance to chat with Destination DC President and CEO Elliot Ferguson about what other fun you can expect.
Right, we've seen all the national kickoff moments, but what does it really mean for America's 250th specifically for the district?
You know, for Washington, D.C., it's really celebrating, of course, America's history. We are the stewards of that, thanks to the Smithsonian and so many of the monuments that we have in the city. But it's also an opportunity to tie in what the federal government is doing with what Washington is doing to celebrate America's 250th. Of course, you saw the National Mall lit up over the last few days with fireworks and the Lincoln Memorial. But there's so many major events and openings that are taking place this year that we want to incorporate in the itineraries of those domestic and international visitors that are thinking about coming to the United States and therefore to Washington.
Yeah, and you talk about those visitors, and of course, this is a year-long celebration. What kind of economic impact is this expected to have for DC and especially some of those small businesses that really rely on this?
We'll have a better grasp on economic impact at the end of the year because this is a year-long celebration. And with that, we're looking at packages that are tied to hotels, of course, the restaurant scene with Restaurant Week. I saw Sean Townsend on WSA earlier this week. Of course, a lot of openings in the city, a lot of celebrations, the 10th anniversary of the African American Museum, the 50th anniversary of Air and Space, the Horse Sharks coming back online, the new National Geographic Museum. The list goes on in terms of what we're going to be able to incorporate in that overall celebration of those visitors coming to the city. And then, of course, tying it to 51 Steps of Freedom and the civil rights movement that, of course, happened well after 1776, and tying it into the local experience for those that are in Washington, D.C. that want to explore their own city, as well as those that are coming from all over the world to the United States.
All right, I want to ask you people here, America 250, DC 250, talk about what the difference is and how they kind of work together this year.
Yeah, America's 250, of course, the federal government's response to the overall celebration. We've seen it already. We've heard from the administration things that are going to be happening on the National Mall this year. We're tying ours into the experience in Washington, D.C. Only in Washington can you see the Declaration of Independence. Of course, the 16 free museums, including the zoo that are part of the Smithsonian. So many things to see and do in Washington, D.C. that are tied to the federal experience, but also the 700,000 people that live in Washington, D.C., the experience that we have as Washingtonians and the history that is tied to where our country is today, and especially since our founding in 1776. So it's a big deal for us economically. I know our hotels are engaged, our restaurants are engaged. A lot of the festivals that are taking place, Cherry Blossom Festival and others, will play an active role in celebrating America's 250.
And we have just a few seconds left, but I want to ask you, how can people keep up with all these events happening throughout the year?
Easiest place, washington.org. That's our website. You'll see itineraries that are tied into things in which you can do while you're in Washington, D.C., be it a staycation or those that are coming from all over the world to Washington.
All right. Elliot Ferguson, thank you so much for your time. We appreciate it. A big year ahead.
Thank you so much.
Now to two stories you may have missed on your social feeds this week. First, Warner Brothers rejected Paramount's new deal to buy their company, saying Paramount's offer wasn't in the best interest of Warner Brothers or its shareholders. Just a few weeks ago, Warner Brothers told its shareholders to continue moving forward on acquiring Netflix. And Amazon refunding some of its customers up to $51 as part of a $2.5 billion settlement. The FTC says the online retail giant enrolled tens of millions of customers into their Prime subscription without the customer's consent or knowledge, and then made it hard for customers to cancel that subscription. You can file a claim online if you think you're eligible. Off-season trouble for a Commanders star still ahead. What we're learning and what the Commanders are saying after Marshon Lattimore was arrested in Ohio. The Commanders' offseason took a troubling turn involving one of its stars. Commanders cornerback Marshon Lattimore was arrested Wednesday night in Lakewood, Ohio. According to police records obtained by WKYC, our sister station in Cleveland, police say the 29-year-old was taken into custody on weapons charges. The Commanders say that they are aware of the arrest and are gathering more information. A four-time Pro Bowler, Lattimore was drafted by the Saints in 2017 and traded to Washington back in 2024. He missed most of this past season due to an ACL injury. Lattimore previously pleaded guilty to a misdemeanor weapons charge in Ohio in 2021 and has 1 year remaining on his contract, leaving his future with the team uncertain. And major changes coming to the Commanders' leadership team. The team parted ways with offensive coordinator Cliff Kingsbury and defensive coordinator Joe Witt Jr. This decision was announced just days after the Commanders' season had ended. And according to online speculation, other NFL teams have showed interest in hiring Kingsbury as a potential head coach. And former Dolphins head coach Mike McDaniel is emerging as a possible target for the Commanders' offensive coordinator position. McDaniel has a long history with head coach Dan Quinn from their time together in Atlanta, and McDaniel has credited Coach Quinn with supporting him during his battle with alcoholism. Locked On Commanders podcast host David Harrison says that it's not just that relationship, but McDaniel's offensive creativity that could make this a strong fit in Washington.
Dan also leans into the offensive genius that is Mike McDaniel and how much he loves working with players, quarterbacks especially. So a very, very tight mutual respect, bond, and love that gives you confidence that if this is the hire they end up making, you know that trust factor is going to be there from day one.
Coming up, an Arlington bike shop is giving out free bikes to those in need, but there is a catch. What you have to learn first to get one next. As we begin this new year, hope is in full supply at a Virginia bike shop. Staff members there are making a positive impact on the lives of every customer with an unusual offer. Our Sean Martinelli heads to Arlington to get to the heart of it.
The offer here seemed a little too good. Like a chain that's a little too tight or a tire that's a little too full. This Arlington, Virginia bike shop gives a free bike to any kid who wants one.
Let's just say it gave me a beginning.
But like any good offer, there's a catch.
The big thing with our program is you earn it.
Phoenix Bike's executive director, Tom Shannon, says that's what makes this shop different. Anyone who gets a bike first has to learn to fix a bike.
So it's pretty cool.
We have parents that come back to us going, I don't know what they said, but they absolutely love it.
150 kids a year come through here for the shop's Earn a Bike program.
I say it expanded my love on cycling because I already loved bikes since I was little.
For 8 weeks, they learn to fix everything from derailleurs to cassettes. A team of teachers lead the way with their trademark Phoenix passion.
Passion, you could also say obsession.
Beth Perminter heads the youth programs.
I think for some of the kids, it's life-changing.
The thought here is that if you can fix a bike, you can accomplish anything. Oliver DiGeronimo wants to one day work for Amtrak.
I really feel a sense of community and belonging here.
Camilla Randy wants to be an engineer.
So this is like perfect leading into it.
And Ronaldo Fernandez wants to join the military.
I have a passion for anything with wheels and an engine. Then after that, I did have a dream of having my own bike shop and making a youth program like this one.
And even if their future careers have nothing to do with bikes.
We really believe that if you can get your hands on to work on a bike, you can unlock and develop skills and potential you didn't know you had within you.
An offer that once seemed too good now leaves little doubt. This isn't about just earning a bike. It's about building a future. In Arlington, Virginia, Sean Martinelli, WUSA 9.
And if you know someone who is an inspiration and making an impact on our community, you can send the information Sean's way by emailing him at theheartofit@wusa9.com. Well, that is the latest. Thanks so much for staying in the loop. We'll see you back here next weekend. Be safe, everybody.